It began far from the roaring stadiums, long before the world ever chanted his name. Before the lights, before the trophies, there was only wind, salt, and the endless blue of the Atlantic Ocean. The island of Madeira sits like a green jewel off the coast of Portugal. Steep cliffs, narrow streets, and the scent of the sea everywhere. Life here is beautiful, but never easy. People work hard, dream small, and love deeply. It's where a boy named Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro was born on February 5, 1985, in a working-class neighborhood of Sant Antonio. His father, José Denis Aveiro, was a gardener and part-time kit man for a local football club. His mother, Maria Dolores, was a cook and cleaner, tough, proud, endlessly determined. They lived in a small house with a tin roof, where money was tight, but the laughter of children filled the air. Ronaldo was the youngest of four, spoiled with affection, but shaped by hardship. His mother would later confess something few knew. "I wanted to have an abortion, but God didn't want it. He had other plans for this child." That child would one day conquer the world. From the moment he could walk, Cristiano was never still. He chased everything that rolled: oranges, bottles, scrunched up paper. Football wasn't just a game to him. It was oxygen. At 6, he joined a small team called Andorinha, where his father worked. There were no fancy facilities, no manicured pitches, just dust, sweat, and dreams. But even then, people noticed something strange in him. He wasn't bigger or stronger. He was just faster, sharper, and hungrier. His coach, Francisco Afonso, would later recall, "He was different. When he lost, he cried. That's how you know he cared more than anyone." By 10, Cristiano had become the island's little sensation. He played for Nacional, Madeira's biggest local club. Coaches whispered about the skinny kid who could dribble past men twice his size. He scored for fun, sprinted like wind, and practiced endlessly long after his teammates went home. But Madeira was small. His dreams weren't. When scouts from Sporting Lisbon invited him for a trial on the mainland, it meant leaving his family, his island, his world, at only 12 years old. His mother packed his bag, hiding her tears. On the flight to Lisbon, Cristiano pressed his forehead against the window, watching the island disappear beneath the clouds. Somewhere deep inside, a vow was born. "I will make them proud." But Lisbon wasn't a dream at first. It was a test. He missed home terribly. His accent made him a target of jokes. Some older kids bullied him for his clothes, for his voice, for being the boy from the island. He cried at night, quietly, but the next morning he ran harder, trained longer. When a teacher mocked his ambition, saying he'd never be a professional footballer, Ronaldo threw a chair at him. He was expelled. His mother was furious, but he told her calmly, "I don't need school. I'll be the best footballer in the world." That wasn't arrogance. It was prophecy. At 15, disaster almost ended it all. Doctors discovered a heart condition. His heartbeat raced dangerously during exertion. Surgery was required. It could have ended his dream forever. But days after the operation, before the stitches had healed, Cristiano was back on the training field. Nothing could stop him. By 16, he was already training with Sporting's senior team. By 17, he made his debut in Portugal's top division, lightning fast, fearless, impossible to ignore. Then came August 6, 2003, the night that changed everything. Sporting Lisbon hosted Manchester United for a friendly to inaugurate their new stadium. In the stands sat Sir Alex Ferguson, the legendary United manager. What he saw that night was something he'd never forget. Cristiano destroyed United's defense: stepovers, speed, control, confidence. John O'Shea, United's defender, was left dizzy. After the match, United's players begged Ferguson to sign him immediately. Within days, Cristiano Ronaldo became a Manchester United player. The transfer fee, £12.24 million, record money for a teenager. He arrived in England at 18, speaking little English, with a suitcase, a dream, and an obsession to become the best. He chose the number 7 jersey, a shirt once worn by icons like George Best, Eric Cantona, and David Beckham. Many thought it was too heavy for a boy. Ronaldo saw it differently. It's not pressure, it's motivation. His debut came at Old Trafford against Bolton. The crowd gasped as he touched the ball. Raw talent, fearless dribbles, electric speed. The stadium rose. A new era had begun. But England was cold, harsh, and unforgiving. Defenders kicked him. Fans booed his tricks. The media mocked his style. They called him arrogant. He answered the only way he knew, with work. He trained longer than anyone. He ate cleaner than anyone. He practiced free kicks until dusk, running sprints long after the floodlights went off. Sir Alex Ferguson saw something rare, an obsession. Cristiano, he said, was the most dedicated player I ever managed. He never wanted to be second best. In 2006, after years of criticism, something shifted. Cristiano grew stronger, smarter, ruthless. The goals started to flow. By 2007, he was unstoppable. 23 goals, 25 assists, trophies returning to Manchester. Then came 2008, the year that would define him. He led Manchester United to the Premier League title and the Champions League. He scored 42 goals in one season, a miracle in modern football. In Moscow, during the Champions League final against Chelsea, he scored United's only goal in regular time. When the match went to penalties, he missed his kick. His face fell, his eyes closed, but fate forgave him. United won. Ronaldo fell to his knees, tears mixing with rain. Later that year, he won his first Ballon d'Or, officially becoming the best player in the world. From a small boy in Madeira to the top of the world at just 23 years old. But the story was far from over. In his heart, a new dream had begun to form. White shirts, roaring crowds, a club called Real Madrid.
By 2009, Cristiano Ronaldo had everything: trophies, fame, wealth, adoration. But for a man who lived on challenge, comfort was the enemy. Manchester had given him greatness. Madrid promised immortality. That summer, the world watched headlines explode. Real Madrid signed Cristiano Ronaldo for €94 million, the most expensive footballer in history. At his unveiling, 80,000 fans filled the Santiago Bernabeu. The noise was deafening. Cameras flashed like lightning. Ronaldo stood in white, raised the ball and smiled, that calm, familiar smile that masked a storm beneath. "I am very happy," he said simply, "to be here. This has always been my dream." But dreams in Madrid come with weight. This was a club built on pressure, perfection, and the ghosts of legends. And waiting across Spain was a quiet rival, a genius in blue and red named Lionel Messi. That rivalry became something greater than sport. It was destiny's split path, two men born to lift each other higher, forever compared, forever connected. Ronaldo was the machine, precision, discipline, ferocity. Messi was the magician, effortless, instinctive, poetic. Every week, the world watched as Real Madrid and Barcelona turned football into theater. And from that first moment in Spain, Ronaldo had one mission: to prove he belonged among the gods. His debut season brought glimpses of brilliance, goals, records, flashes of the unstoppable power that had defined him in England. But Real Madrid wasn't Manchester United. There were politics, rivalries, expectations written into every blade of grass. When José Mourinho arrived in 2010, everything sharpened. Mourinho, fierce and unapologetic, built a machine, and Ronaldo was its beating heart. "He's not human," Mourinho said. "He's from another planet." In 2011, the Copa del Rey final against Barcelona became Ronaldo's first great Real Madrid moment. The match was deadlocked, tense, grinding. Then, in extra time, he rose, high above defenders, time freezing around him, and powered a header into the net. He sprinted to the corner flag, arms outstretched, a scream of release. That image, his body suspended, his face wild with triumph, defined him. He wasn't just a footballer anymore. He was a force of nature. But in Madrid, admiration was never guaranteed. The Spanish press loved him one day and crucified him the next. Too arrogant, they said, too proud. Ronaldo didn't answer with interviews. He answered with numbers. Every goal was a reply, every record a rebuke. By 2012, he was scoring 60 goals a season. In 2013, he surpassed that again. The crowd that once doubted him began chanting his name, Siu, echoing through stadiums, bouncing across continents. And when he lost the Ballon d'Or to Messi for 4 straight years, he didn't crumble. He worked harder. He once said, "Your love makes me strong. Your hate makes me unstoppable." In 2013, the unstoppable man rose again. He won his second Ballon d'Or, tears streaming down his face as he lifted it. He whispered, "This is for my family, for my teammates, and for everyone who believed in me." It wasn't just victory, it was vindication. The next 5 years were the golden age. 2014 to 2018, the years of Real Madrid's European domination. In those years, Ronaldo became the very heartbeat of the Champions League. In 2014, he led Real to the La Decima, their 10th European crown, scoring a record 17 goals in one tournament. In 2016, he scored the final penalty in the shootout against Atletico Madrid, collapsing to his knees in tears. In 2017, he demolished Juventus in the final, scoring twice. In 2018, he stunned the world with a bicycle kick against Juventus, a moment so perfect that even opposing fans stood and applauded. He had become football's most ruthless weapon, a symbol of power and perfection. Every record fell. Every doubt vanished. Every young boy in the world copied his celebration. The boy from Madeira had become a global myth. But greatness means carrying weight, and not all of it is golden. In 2016, Ronaldo faced the greatest test of his international career. For years, he had given everything to Portugal: goals, hope, heartbreak. He cried after losing the Euro 2004 final as a teenager. He cried again after the 2014 World Cup humiliation. Then came Euro 2016. Portugal weren't favorites. They barely survived the group stage. Critics laughed. Ronaldo didn't. Against Hungary, he scored twice, one with a backheel that seemed to defy logic, another with a header of pure will. In the semi-final against Wales, he soared above everyone, a thunderous header, pure dominance, and Portugal reached the final. But fate wasn't done testing him. In the final against France, in front of 75,000 fans, Ronaldo collided with a defender and fell clutching his knee. He tried to continue 3 times, but the pain was unbearable. He collapsed in tears, his captain's armband sliding down his arm. The cameras caught his whisper, "I can't do it." As he was carried off, the dream seemed broken. But from the sidelines, something extraordinary happened. He refused to sit. Bandaged, limping, he became Portugal's loudest voice, shouting orders, pushing teammates, living every second. In extra time, Ader scored. Portugal won, France 0. The final whistle blew, and Ronaldo, unable to play, had still led them to glory. Under the Paris night, tears on his face, he lifted the European Championship trophy, the first in Portugal's history. He said softly, "This is the most beautiful moment of my life." From that moment, Cristiano Ronaldo was more than a footballer. He was a symbol of willpower, resilience, belief. By 2017, he had won his 5th Ballon d'Or, tying Messi. The debate about who was greater became global religion. But for Ronaldo, it was never about being better than Messi. It was about being the best version of himself. And in 2018, after 9 record-shattering years, he stood at a crossroads again. He had scored 450 goals for Real Madrid, won 4 Champions League titles, 2 La Liga crowns, and every personal award imaginable. There was nothing left to prove, yet he still wanted more. And when he walked off the field after the 2018 Champions League final, his 3rd in a row, he looked around the Key of Night, the fans chanting his name, and smiled with that same calm from long ago. He had given Madrid everything. Now it was time for the next mountain.
In the summer of 2018, the world held its breath once again. Cristiano Ronaldo, the face of Real Madrid for nearly a decade, the man who had turned white shirts into armor and stadiums into theaters, decided to leave. The news hit like thunder. Ronaldo to Juventus. He was 33. Most players at that age slow down, fade out, retreat quietly into the sunset. But Ronaldo never learned how to slow down. He wanted to rewrite what aging meant in sports. He once said, "If you think you're perfect, you never will be. You must keep working, always." When he arrived in Turin, he smiled, that sharp, confident smile, and told the press, "I'm not here for a holiday. I'm here to make history." And history, as always, followed him. In his very first season in Italy, he carried Juventus to another Serie A title. Stadiums filled just to see him warm up. Opponents feared him. Children wore his name on their backs. In one Champions League night against Atletico Madrid, after Juventus had lost 2-0 in the first leg, Ronaldo looked straight into the camera and said 4 words that sent a shiver through football. "I have 5. 5, meaning 5 Champions Leagues, and he wasn't finished. In the return leg, under the Turin lights, he delivered a performance that bordered on the supernatural. A hat-trick, 3 goals, each one more defiant than the last. As the final whistle blew, he raised his arms wide, eyes blazing, shouting to the crowd, not in arrogance, but in pure primal release. He wasn't chasing records anymore. He was chasing his own reflection. But while the world saw victories, he was fighting quiet battles behind the scenes. Injuries, exhaustion, the constant pressure of expectation. He was a global brand, a family man, and still the hardest worker in every training session. He would arrive before dawn, often leaving long after everyone else. Teammates described him as obsessed, not with fame, but with mastery. He trains like he's still 18, one Juventus coach said. He's addicted to improvement. He turned his body into a machine. Diet measured to the gram, sleep scheduled to the minute. Even his recovery sessions were treated like matches. When asked what his secret was, Ronaldo smiled and said, "There is no secret, just sacrifice." And yet even the most relentless hearts feel the weight of time. In 2020, the world stopped. Stadiums froze, crowds silenced, and football turned into echoes. Ronaldo kept training, kept scoring, but something was missing. The roar, the connection, the human pulse that had always driven him. He still won another Serie A title, another top scorer award, but the fire that once burned for new horizons began to call again. In 2021, destiny made a full circle. The transfer window burned with rumors, whispers, flights tracked across Europe. And then, out of nowhere, Manchester United, the club where it had all begun, called him home. The prodigal son returned. Old Trafford trembled. Tens of thousands chanted his name as he stepped onto the pitch, wearing number 7 again. It was like time folded in on itself. The boy had become the man, and the man had returned as a legend. In his first match back, he scored twice. He ran to the corner flag, leapt into the air, and the crowd roared that one word that had become his anthem, "See you!" But this was not 2008 anymore. The Premier League had changed. So had United. The team was struggling, fractured. Ronaldo scored goal after goal, but even he couldn't hold the pieces together. The critics returned, louder this time, saying he was too old, too demanding, too intense. He didn't answer. He never did. He just trained, he just scored. In one moment that silenced everyone against Tottenham, he scored a hat-trick, 3 goals that defied time. When the final whistle blew, fans rose to their feet. They weren't cheering a player, they were saluting an era. But 2022 brought storms. Behind the scenes, frustrations grew. Leadership clashed, interviews sparked controversy. And just before the World Cup, Ronaldo and Manchester United parted ways. For most, that would have been the end. But Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't end. He evolves. When he signed with Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia, the world reacted with shock, criticism, curiosity. He's chasing money, they said. He's finished. But Ronaldo knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't leaving the game. He was expanding it. He was bringing football to a new frontier, to a part of the world ready to rise. And once again, he delivered. Goals, passion, leadership. He turned stadiums in Riyadh into arenas of history. His arrival lit the spark for something bigger, a global shift in football's geography. He wasn't chasing fame anymore. He was building legacy. Off the field, the man behind the myth grew quieter, more reflective. He spoke about his children, about his late father, about the loneliness of success. He said, "People see the glory, but not the pain. They see the goals, but not the nights when I couldn't sleep." He had become the mentor now, a man who had climbed every mountain and learned what it costs to stand at the top. His story wasn't just about football anymore. It was about the human spirit, the hunger to become more, the refusal to stop, the belief that limits are illusions. From a small island in the Atlantic to the biggest stages on earth, Cristiano Ronaldo had lived a life that reads like legend, but is built on reality, sweat, tears, obsession, and love for a game that gave him everything. He became the first man to score in 5 World Cups. He surpassed 800 career goals, a number so absurd it felt mythical. He became the most followed human on earth, a symbol of ambition itself. But if you asked him, he'd say it was never about numbers. It was about purpose. "I want to be remembered," he once said, "not just as a great player, but as someone who never gave up." And so when you think of Cristiano Ronaldo, the stepovers, the leaps, the screams, the tears, what you're really seeing is not perfection. You're seeing persistence. You're seeing a boy from Madeira who refused to accept that mountains were too high. He taught the world that greatness isn't born, it's built. Built in silence, built in pain, built in endless repetition when no one's watching. He is still out there, under the lights, chasing one more goal, one more challenge, one more reason to keep going. Because for Cristiano Ronaldo, the final whistle hasn't blown yet. And maybe